This is what my calendar looked like in May of 2024, and every single day looked like this for an entire year straight, where every hour of my day was meticulously planned out so I could prioritize the things that were gonna make me the most money and push the business forward. I actually disappeared for an entire year. I left my hometown, I left all my distractions behind me, and put myself into an environment where I could only focus on the business and making more money. For a little bit of context, I had come across the SMMA marketing agency business model back in December of 2022 and decided to pursue it in winter of 2023. Now, it took me about 3 months to close my first deal, and when I had started this marketing agency, I was working a job. Second I closed that first deal, I quit my job and freed up a whole lot of my time so I could just focus on running the business and obviously making more money for myself, because I knew I was not going to be working for somebody. I couldn't work for somebody. I'm going to take orders from myself, and I'm going to have full control over my life, and I'm going to make a ton of money doing it. About a month after I had quit my job, I went down to Miami to visit a friend, and I was instantly just amazed by the city, and I knew that I wanted to live there, and I knew that that's where I wanted to be. So I made it like my big goal, like my big reason at the time was I need to make as much money as possible so like I can move down there as quickly as possible and just curate my life the way that I wanted it to look like down there. So I was in Miami for about 3 days and I ended up coming back to my hometown. I made it for about 4 or 5 months in my hometown when I was like, okay, I got to pull the plug on this. Like, I got to go. Like, it's too distracting here. I have to put myself into an environment where I can actually focus on making more money and pushing this business forward so I can then get to Miami. So I moved to this new environment where I have no friends around me, no family, nothing, like no distractions at all. All I could do was work, which is where, this isolation period and when I actually officially disappeared, which was like October of 2023, and my calendar started to look like that. And every single day looked like that for a year straight, where I was going to the gym at the same time. I had 4 to 5 work blocks on my calendar every single day, and sales calls, as many of them as I could fit in throughout the day. Now, if you got a service, you got a product, and you can't sell it, then you don't have a service or you don't have a product at all, or at least you're never gonna have like a great one. You're never gonna have a great service if you can't sell the thing that you're actually fulfilling on, right? So I knew early on, which I'm glad I did, was I had to prioritize sales and I had to get as many prospects on my calendar as possible and close as many of them as possible so I could then dial in the service and provide outstanding results to every single one of my deals and my clients that I had took on. Now, January of 2024, I started to run paid ads for myself. This was a huge game changer because instead of doing cold outbound, cold call, email, SMS, all that stuff, I had leads just coming in inbound now. I had warm inbound leads popping up on my calendar. So it streamlined my sales process, allowed me to close a lot more deals faster. Did this for months. And for the majority of this year, I was doing around 20-ish K a month. So my first 6 months of being isolated here, I was doing around 15, 20K a month, and it just started to compound on itself every single month where I had more leads coming in, I'd close more deals, I'd have more clients on the back end, more recurring revenue. And that just kept stacking every single month. Now, doing this, a lot of people, including my own family, they thought it was kind of crazy that I would do this and isolate myself like this, but I enjoyed like every single day of it. I enjoyed the routine. I enjoyed the progress being made. I was in growth mode and I could feel it every single day, just being in that growth mode, and it was amazing. Now, one thing that I did that I think I kind of neglected, because once I moved to Miami, I didn't really do it as much, but every day, and I actually had this like on my calendar to do it every day, was just a reflection, like brain dump, and like I would just write down all my goals, everything that I did for that day and everything I had to do for the next day. And it just allowed me to visualize like on paper, like what I was doing, what was working, what wasn't working, and then just keeping that goal, just like dangling that goal like in front of me every single day. And I think that was really important to keeping me dialed in and just keep myself dialed in on the goal, and like, because it was monotonous. Like everything, like what I was doing every day was the same exact thing every single day. So like you got to keep yourself motivated, and it's a mindset thing that you got to play with yourself to keep yourself that focused every single day to see the results that you want. Now, most people, like I would say to them, like if you're ambitious and like you want to make a lot of money, you're trying to you're trying to achieve big things, you got to go through like a period like this in your life. Now this entire year was, I experienced so much growth. Like what would have taken people, years to accomplish. Like I was able to just condense it down into a year, and the growth just absolutely exploded because of it. And I don't regret doing it at all. I actually am trying to recreate it again now because it was an absolute blast. And I just loved being in that growth mode where I could see and feel the growth every single day. Now for me, what I kept writing down was that Miami apartment, what my life would look like there, and eventually, like, I did it. And it took me about a year to do it. I think it took me a little too long. I wish I could have done it sooner, but I got everything that I had wanted from just staying locked in, isolated from everything, and just purely focused on the business for 12 months straight. And I got what I wanted. I was able to move to Miami, and then even there, like the third month of being in Miami was when I hit my first 100K month. And there was a period of time, about 4 to 5 days in like the third week of January, where I was so close to hitting 100K, but I wanted to ensure that I did it. So I locked in to my apartment for about 4 or 5 days straight, got groceries, got everything I needed prior to this, and literally didn't open up my door for like 4 or 5 days straight, and just focused on closing more deals. I closed about 18 deals that month. It was obviously a record month for us, and was just a huge pop in the right direction. And we had so many leads coming in that month too, where my setter, I had to get him on sales calls as well so he could start closing some deals also. And it was just great, because then that day that we had crossed over the 100K mark for January, it was like just this, I feel like I had accomplished it. Like I did it in my Miami apartment, and I just hit 100K a month, and it's like, I thought that was like the ceiling, right? And I plateaued there between like 120 and like 130-ish K a month for about 6 months, where if you're not growing, you're it's not a good thing, and it's not a good feeling either. Especially if you're somebody like me and you want to, like, you're just addicted to that feeling of just growing and moving forward like fast. And it kind of caught up with me because I had joined a very high level mastermind about halfway through that year, and now I'm like the smallest fish again. And like now, 100K a month feels like what 10K a month used to feel like. So like, it just kind of kicked me back into gear, and I was like, I got to change something again. Like I have got to recreate like this environment that I was in where I saw this growth in the first place, and just do it all over again. So last month did 181K. I feel like it should be double that, and realistically be double that, and should be close to 400K a month. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to absolutely spray and pray to get there. I'm launching a new funnel and 2 new offers simultaneously for new people to buy, a new way for people to consume, opt in, and purchase the thing in the first place. These 3 things are what's going to get me to that next level of just staying in constant like revenue growth mode every single month, feeling the growth. But again, and I wouldn't have been able to pick up on this pattern if I hadn't locked in and isolated myself, disappeared for that entire year. Because I knew every time that I had made an environment switch, I experienced a ton of growth. And I knew when I was in an environment where I didn't really have that many, I wouldn't say, luxuries around me, and I wasn't really doing much else other than work, and found a way to just be addicted to the work, was actually what it was like being addicted to, the growth. And actually seeing like the wheels turn and traction every single day. So most people would like never be able to do that, like lock in for an extensive period of time like that, because I learned so much like about myself, like I'm able to pick up now, where it's like every time I change my environment, I see like a revenue pop, like I see growth. So I did it when I left my hometown, I did it when I went to Miami, then I had to leave Miami again, and now I'm putting myself in that same position where it's like I'm going to see another growth pop now, because I know the pattern's going to repeat itself, and I'm going to be throwing some things at it to ensure that it happens. So if you're thinking about actually disappearing for an entire year straight, highly recommend doing it, although most people, they're not going to be able to.